Okay, a little update on my 54 Ford pickup project. A couple things I've done out here. One, put a box fan in the door to keep the dust down. Boy, it was just, even with the enclosure here, it was just piling up way too thick. So now most of the dust goes out with the fan. Well, look on a little patch panel here. Previous restoration, I assume, included a piece of foam rubber in the headliner. Really bad stuff in a truck or a car. It seems to just trap the moisture. And just inside this seam here is a joint that gets pinch weld, and it's got this flange that turns up. And I think the previous restoration also put some kind of undercoating in the groove, down in this groove, and that seemed to just trap the moisture right in that lip, and so it just rusted right through. Let me find that piece down here. Where'd it go? Yeah. Here's the piece that came out of right here, and as you can see, there's just several holes, daylight through there, especially down along that bottom edge. It had just all rusted out along there. It's actually pretty clean through here, and this seems to be a spot of surface rust on the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld that seam shut, Bondo it over, cover it up, and then I'll show a couple shots of cutting out a patch panel here. Before cutting that out, I made a paper pattern that'll fit on that, and I'll place this on a piece of new metal, trace it out, cut it out. This I'm going to try and bend a little bit to try and get this profile curved a little bit. Then I'll show a couple shots of fitting it in, stitching it a little later. So really tough on this project to get it all clean up inside here. I suppose to get this all cleared out, see there's rust, there's still quite a bit of rust between the top of the cab and the side of the cab in that pinch seam all the way down there. I suppose the way to do it would be to cut that thing out completely, take that whole thing out, clean all that stuff out, then weld it up. But I'm just doing a half-baked job on this, so I'm not going to go into that much detail. Just try and get the holes plugged and get it back together. Also, I was going to show you on the drip rail. I think I showed a little bit just this before. So this drip rail, the joint seal failed that goes in down in the drip rail, and so it rusted out. You can see daylight right along the outside edge, and so far I had pretty good luck. Too much sand in there, but I've done a little cleaning in that and have been able to weld right down, get the weld right down in there, put that back together, and then we'll hit that really good with some primer, maybe some Rust-Oleum type primer, and then fill the joint compound back in there again, joint sealer, and I think that'll work. Okay, so I took the paper and traced it onto a piece of metal, and now I'll take the cutoff wheel and cut that sucker out. So I just rough it out with the cutoff wheel, And then use the 10 snips on this 18 gauge because I can get a little more precise to my line using this. With the cutoff wheel, it usually turns the metal black right along there, and then you lose the line. And it's best when welding to have a fairly tight, a fairly tight joint. So I'll do some bending and fitting on this. I cut some slots in it because I'm going to make a bottom flange out of that. And then I just pounded on the carpet here. Put a little bit of curve in it. It's pretty close, and I'll bend the rest of the shape at the truck. Okay, well, I slotted and then welded the back flange. A little bending and trimming, and a little more trimming. I think it's pretty close to where I need it to be to tack weld it flush and then pound it. It's hard to get it in there, but anyway, pretty close. I'll tack a few, pound it down, and give you another shot on how it's fitting in there. So now you might say, oh, it's a little obsessive putting that flange on there, but when you weld this joint, if you got just a bare edge, say just a bare edge on the top in this folded over part, at least my welding skills, it's really hard to get that weld in there and not be blowing out the bare edge. So that's why I made the flange, rolled it under like that. Okay, well, hope it's not too tight. Kind of find some spots that are flush, tack those, work it down, tack those. Got over that corner, tack that. It's still pretty high right here. I hope I can beat that. Pound that down in there. Might get kind of tight. I think there's enough room, so hope the end isn't too tight. Like it tight so that I don't blow out the welds like that one right there. Too bad, but anyway, we'll keep poking away at it. Gets ugly before it gets better. And it did push down, so we're pretty flush right there. Bottom corner, far edge, flushed out pretty good. This edge a little low on the patch piece, so I'll have to get inside, push it back up, flush it out. And the contour is a little low. Patches tend to do that. It tends to suck in right along here, but again, some Bondo on that will fill it in pretty good. Not be too thick, so come back when I get it ground down a little bit. So there it is. Welded off. A little bit of high-low there, so I didn't get all the bead ground out of it. I don't want to grind on that sheet metal too much. Ends up being kind of thin. And just a low spot right through there. But some of that will come out with the Bondo. And I went ahead and filled that joint about as good as I can get it, so the rest I'll have to do. Might sandblast it just to get all the, try to get as bare metal as I can. Then I got some rusty metal primer that might work better than the self-etching primer. So that's it. I'm gonna try and patch these videos together and make it all one.